Speeding on baby someone. That's a little better. Plug this thing in. There we go. Okay, where am I? Here. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't notice your comment. Thank you so much. Don't mind my absolutely crazy children in the background yelling. EMSA. I think that's what EMSA? Yep. I'll kind of be back and forth just because my daughter is in the tub. You should set one up. You should definitely set up a saltwater tank. A lot of people think that they are harder than they are. To me, they're no different than a freshwater aquarium. And the only thing is that when it comes to doing like water changes, you have to mix salt. That's it. When it comes to keeping coral and other things like that, it's a little different, especially when you get into like SPS coral. But other than that, if you did like a fish only system, you can get really cool looking fish. And to me, saltwater is so much easier. You have such a bigger bacteria in the system that is able to take care of like nitrates and phosphates and stuff. So you could even do a planted aquarium, then you wouldn't have to worry about even doing anything like that. You could feed relatively heavy and probably be all right. But yeah, I think everybody should. If you want to do a saltwater reef system, reef tank, you should definitely do it. It's not as hard as people make it out to be. Over here. I think with any reef system, you're going to have issues for sure, but I don't think they'll ever be to the point where you think it's time to quit, I guess I would say. It does happen with others. Like I've seen other people who've had those issues, but if you can push through it on your first tank and make it to a year or longer, it really starts to benefit you, I guess I would say. My longtime friend, Levi, he has a 32 fluval flex, and his has been heavily infested with like a hair algae for probably at least 6 months now, and he's just starting to come around on it. And he enjoyed it. Obviously, he's had his ups and downs with the reef itself, but he's really enjoying it now, so that's always good. closer. That's a little bit. Question, do you guys get this live just pop up on your YouTube, or did you guys search for like the title? Just wondering. No. All right. What is going on? Yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything, or if you have a reef tank yourself, go ahead and hit up the chat if you have any questions. Let me know if you have a reef. Best offer eligible. Probably put that on. Total setup, it's hard to say, but total setup, I can go through like the prices. Aquarium itself all together comes as an all-in-one system. So that comes with your filtration in the back, your return pump, a lid, and a light. I believe I got it on sale. It was like $179, $189, I believe. US dollars, and then I upgraded the light, which was Night Crew Hyper Reef. That was $100 and $50 for the controller. And then I did a upgraded power head, which is the one you see on the back, and I also have one on the front. That I would say is another 100. Upgraded the return pump in the back. That's another 50. Sand and rock, I think, was another 100. And then the coral itself, some of them I got as frags from other reefers, local reefers, and some of them I ordered offline. So probably grand total, everything in here, frags included, fish included, probably around $1,000 to $1,200, I think. That's and this system is a little overkill for its size. Um, you don't need all the upgrades that this system has. You could easily run uh, this reef system completely bone stock, and you could easily keep fish and soft corals in there, the easier kind. So. If you buy one and you want to do like SPS coral, you may have to upgrade your flow. But if you're just trying to get into the hobby and start super simple, um, no, you wouldn't have to upgrade anything. The stock light on this system is able to grow soft corals, which is like these ones right down here. These are zoanthids and some mushrooms over here. You'd be able to grow those. You might even be able to grow some LPS like these blastos and the plate coral that's down here. All that with the um, stock light and stock pump. If you want to go like a little harder, obviously if you have the experience, then you could. But stock system wise, you could easily start a reef system, no problem. And probably have a very successful one at that, just keeping it super simple. In all honesty, that's probably what will happen to this system if I upgrade to, well, when I upgrade to my larger one that I have, my 80 gallon. Well, this will probably become a super simple softy tank where it only has the return pump as flow, and I can use the other wave makers for something else. Yeah, I've never had a problem with small. I feel that I'm the opposite. I recommend small because maintenance wise, you're not carrying around massive buckets of water, so it's easy to do water changes. Um, and as long as you keep it simple, like if you're going with a softy tank, obviously you can have some nutrients in the system, so you don't have to do water changes all the time. If you're going for like a mixed reef, kind of like what I did, I would say it's a little bit more difficult just because you're hitting flow in so many different areas, like in so many different SPFs that need that flow and a high energy light. But I mean, in reality, you can do a softy tank or even a planted saltwater tank, and you can keep it super simple, especially on the small scale. The one, yeah, 4x2x2. That's the definition of the perfect dimension reef tank. Um, but you know, once you've been in for a while, that's what you look out for. But Like for me, if somebody's just getting into it, all-in-one systems are so nice. The maintenance on them is, you know, it's not hard at all. You do a 2 gallon water change for this system, that's like 20% of the total water volume in it easily. So once a week, 2 gallons, once every 2 weeks, 2 gallons. It really depends on what you would want to do and what your schedule is able to do. But I recommend small tanks all the time, especially to new people. They're so much easier in so many ways. Yeah, I have an 80-gallon rimless that I got for free off of a local reefer. He just didn't want to clean it up and he had upgraded. So that's the next reef system that I'll be setting up. But at the moment, I have a BioCube 32 and a fluval Flex 32. I do bi-weekly 10-gallon water changes alternating between the two. Yeah, see, that's what I mean. Like, you can keep it so simple. My buddy Levi has a fluval Flex 32 as well. And I think he does 2 gallon weekly water changes on it. And he grows SPS in his as well. But he did, like I said, he had a bit of a heavy outbreak in green hair algae for a while. I said that a little earlier. But yeah, it's the small systems. I mean, especially if you want a tank that looks super filled out relatively quickly, a small system is pretty ideal in my mind. Plus the price point, I think, is another big key factor. You know, people get into the hobby and they think, oh man, I gotta spend all kinds of money because so many people have, you know, big flashy tanks. But in reality, you can have a beautiful reef that's only 13 gallons, kind of like this one. So I had to add a canister filter to my Flex. I got it used, and didn't realize the filtration chamber wasn't sealed properly. Yeah, that's what I noticed on the Flex. So on the Flex, if you don't do media baskets, it will pull from the bottom of the water column as well. So you definitely need to do like the upgraded media baskets in the back to be able to close those off so that the water actually comes in through the top and goes through like the filter floss or whatever you have up there as your filtration. But like if it's the stock version, it just kind of gets sucked in from everywhere out back, which just doesn't make any sense. I'm not exactly sure why Fluval did that. But like on this system, so this is where the weir is up in the top left corner, and in the middle of this wall on the middle chamber down bottom, there's a tiny little hole, probably like a half an inch long by like a eighth of an inch to a quarter of an inch like wide. It's very tiny, and it kind of is the same thing, but they give you a plug. I think mine didn't come with the plug that I've seen other people that have one that does have a plug, but I just took a piece of plastic and like glued it over it with my GSP on the back wall. So I do have a little plastic nub that sticks out, but that made it so that the water has to go through the weir up top through the filter floss. But even in the back chamber, like the walls that split between the actual like filtration system, the first one is like a cone. So it's not even like the water's not even being completely directed all the way down to the bottom. But all I do for filtration in this system is just filter floss. I have a algae reactor on the back. You can kind of see it It's a DIY algae reactor. It's basically not on at all anymore. I think it's only on like an hour and a half a night, light wise, I mean. And I have some matrix media in the back. Other than that, I do use carbon from time to time, and I do have phosban in here just because my phosphates were kind of high for a little bit, so I put it in and lowered it down, and it's kind of just been keeping it stable. It's a very small amount. I don't use that much because the system being so small, you can get away with only using like a tablespoon or two. I think it's a ridiculously small amount. But yeah, the fluval flex is like that whole design is just so wrong. Like it doesn't make any sense. Um, like if you look on some of the other all-in-one systems, like Innovative Marines, like their flow system is like set up so that it goes all the way down like one chamber and then comes up and then into the other chamber. It's just a better design. Oh, on mine the seal broke, so that's why I had to run a canister. I still run the stock pump to circulate water back there to feed my skimmer. Nice. Yeah, this system doesn't have a skimmer on it. It's got every night it gets micro scrubbed, which it's just got a air stone underneath the return pump in the back. And every night for a few hours I micro bubble scrub, and all that does is it shoots micro bubbles up into the return pump, fills the whole system up with micro bubbles, and that brings it's basically like a skimmer but not in the way. So basically it attaches particles, they float up to the top, they go over into the filter pad. That's the only thing I use it for. It makes the water look pretty polished. If you have like any skim on the top, does a good job at getting that stuff off as well. But no skimmer on this system. Not that I even have any room because of all my DIY stuff in the back. So. I only run the skimmer for the ability to run a CO2 scrubber. Without it, I'm at 7.8, 7.9. Yeah, this tank has raised pH because I have kalkwasser in my auto top off, so it pretty much constantly has the ability of having the pH raised. I also live in Maine where I'm able to have the windows open for a good part of the summer, spring, and fall. So on average between those 3 seasons, I'm like 8.5, 8.6 around there probably. During the winter, it's around like 8.2.5 to like 8.3.5 is where it stays around. So this tank has a really good pH. So I do see a lot of growth. yeah, you guys down there, like right now, I don't even know. I think it's like, yeah, it's 61 degrees outside here in Maine. It's cloudy, overcast. For the last probably week, we've been able to have the windows open, so the pH is pretty high right now. I gotta recalibrate my pH probe because it's basically lying to me, pretty badly actually. Um, and I noticed it a week and a half ago. I just got my pH probe um, calibration liquid, sorry, in, so I will be calibrating that. But yeah, I can, all the places that are like down south and stuff, like I can completely understand because you guys have it all closed up. You have your ACs on. Um, I would imagine anyway, so that your house is cool and your reef tank doesn't boil. We've probably had this whole summer probably a week to 2 weeks where we needed to have the AC on, I would say, here at my house. Um, we have a pretty good tree covering on the back side of the house, so it keeps the temperatures pretty cool for most of the day. Um, but yeah, I can completely understand how you would have a low pH like that and to run your CO2 scrubber. How often do you go through media in your CO2 scrubber? Because I kind of made it's kind of funny because I'm a DIY everything. Like I literally DIY'd my auto top off. I DIY'd my algae reactor. I have a DIY um, CO2 scrubber. So I have to run an air pump to the air stone to be able to do that. So I made a little bottle that holds CO2 media in it, and that goes to the air stone. So it's kind of a CO2 scrubber that before it goes in, but yes, you can run Kalkwasser with two part. The only thing is that once Kalkwasser is in there, it's going to take care of your alkalinity and your calcium. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to do like Kalkwasser, slowly bring it in because you're going to still be using your two part, but you're basically going to go from slowly using Kalkwasser to being Kalkwasser is your main base, and your two part is going to pick up the slack on whatever your Kalkwasser can't do, whether that be alkalinity or calcium. So you can definitely do it, and it will save you some money because Kalkwasser is so cheap. Um, and it also has that added benefit of raising the pH in the system, giving your corals a more happy place of growth. So that's how I would recommend doing it. Is just still keep using your two part, but you're gonna have to test because not elk, but Kalkwasser will become the main source of alkalinity and calcium in your system, and then you can just tweak it with your two part afterwards, save yourself some money, and have the added benefit of the pH going up. That's the one of the best benefits I would say of Kalkwasser is being able to have your pH go up, and it's super simple. Like I said, I run it in my auto top off. I don't usually I don't like dose it, so this system gets Kalkwasser all day long, one way or another. It's got a gravity feed auto top off float valve in it, so it's constantly adjusting to the slightest bit of water volume in the system. So it's getting a good amount of Kalkwasser into it each day. As far as media, I usually replace it once every 2 weeks. What are you talking about for media? Are you talking like a carbon bag and like Roaphos or Yeah, I bet if you did, oh, the CO2 meter. The I bet if you did Kalkwasser, you could almost get rid of um, your CO2 scrubber on your system, especially if you can dose it. Um, a lot of people dose their Kalkwasser at night to have that pH, so it kind of keeps your pH more stable throughout the whole entire day. My system does not have that because it's like I said, it's in the auto top off, so it gets topped off continuously through the day. So um, if you have a dosing pump and you can run Kalkwasser, you can pretty much you can set it up so that it does all of your auto top off essentially as well. I've seen a lot of people who've done that. I'm doing it as well, but I bet you could pretty much get rid of that CO2 scrubber if you did Kalkwasser. Again, that would save you money as well, just off the Kalkwasser. I think I don't even know what a bag of, like a big bag of Kalkwasser is like $30 or something like that. It's gonna last you a long time. Like, I don't have. Maybe I do. I'll check. Yeah, I do have a. What's it called? So the last Kalkwasser I used was Seachem, and it was 1 pound, and that lasted me over a year, and I think it was like $14, and that has taken care of the calcium and alkalinity in this system since I put it in, and I haven't had to do anything else to be able to grow what I have. The only other thing, magnesium, but that is implemented by my water changes. I do a water change once a week, 2 gallons, and that takes care of the magnesium, no problem. Wow, yeah. So, what do you have for a system? I don't know if I caught that or not. Oh, you got two of them. Sorry, 32 and 32 flex. Um, is that between the two of them, or is that each tank only uses about 2.5 gallons in 5 weeks? Um, Even if so, my buddy Levi, who has a 32 flex, he has a. Oh yeah, my daughter does too. I have a lid on mine, but it's a mesh top with a feeding hole, and my daughter likes to try and put stuff in here all the time. We've had a good many talks about that. But my buddy Levi, he doesn't have a solid lid. His is an acrylic lid with like drilled holes in it, so it does keep a lot of evap in. And his uses like 5 gallons every, man, it's a while, probably 6 to 8 weeks, I would say, in between there. And he runs Kalkwasser in his, and he has been running a mixed reef as well. So you can definitely do it. You can definitely still do it with your what's it called, with Kalkwasser, 100%, even with low evaporation, because you can use the Kalkwasser to just be able to help you tweak your two part, I guess you would say. Because like I said, your Kalkwasser is going to be your main supplement of alkalinity and calcium, and then your two part is just going to be your tweaking afterwards if you need to. Um, Instead of having your two part be your main source of calcium and alkalinity. And you'll still get that pH boost. You definitely will. It won't be um, as high as it would if you were to do, like, if you were to have high evaporation, but you will definitely get a pH boost from using it. Because you got to remember, not calcium, but kalkwasser at full saturation, which is like 6 grams per gallon, I think is what it is like 12 pH. So you can run it in your auto top off as long as you clean your auto top off. If not, you could just figure out what your evaporation rate in the system is and run a doser at those many mLs a day and do it over like the nighttime, and you'll probably see a pretty good stabilization of your pH. That's what I want to try in this system, really. I do have a 4-head dosing pump in the back, but it's got a problem where it doesn't actually seal off, so it will pull vacuum one way or another, pull suction, I should say, depending on how high the container is compared to the level of the water. My alkalinity doesn't really move much. It's always around 9 to 10, but I have to dose calcium every 2 to 3 days. I dose elk once a week at best. See, my thing is, I know everybody wants like a certain alkalinity number, but I think the better thing is that it doesn't like jump a big number in like one day, like in a 24-hour period. Like this system, when I first implemented kalkwasser, got up to 13 on my alkalinity, and I didn't change anything. I continued to do the same thing, just let it ride out, and the system consumed the alkalinity, and it didn't calcify anywhere. So like my sand is not clumped up or anything. Didn't calcify in the back. I had really good growth on a lot of my stony corals, so those ate up the alkalinity quite a bit. I continued just doing my water changes, which are with reef crystals, but like the Blastos were only, I think, a 3-head frag when I first got it. Both of these big patches right here. This guy right here was only 2. This was 3 heads as well, but it basically died when I first put it in there. This started out as a tiny little frag. So I've had a lot of, all my stony coral have grown like that. The Setosa on the back is massive. That's about the size of a baseball, probably. So to me, the alkalinity consumption isn't like a big thing, but the calcium being eaten up, it's probably going somewhere. So you either have like really good coralline growth, which is eating up some calcium, or your corals are growing really well. But my calcium's always, with the auto top off kalkwasser, is pretty much was always around 440, but I just tested it 2 days ago. Was it 2 days ago? I think so, yeah. And it was like 490, 500. So I definitely know, but my salinity was at 0.027, so it was an elevated salinity, so my numbers were probably a little whacked. But the kalkwasser in this system has taken care of everything. So the random flows I got off of eBay, I believe. I can't remember the guy's name, but they were off eBay. The thing I don't like about them is that the fitting where they clip in the lock line is loose. So on this one, I glued them, mostly because I got them and I didn't want to return them. So I just glued them on the end pieces, so they're all adjustable other than that, but they are good. I don't know how much more flow they really do make, even with the upgraded pump, but they are colorful, very colorful. Much more colorful when they don't have coralline all over them. And your alkalinity isn't being eaten up, Give me 1 second. I don't know what the reasoning is, but I can check. Yeah, because if your calcium's going down, your alkalinity should be going down as well. Um, you should see your alkalinity drop way more than your calcium. So, I don't know. Let me see. I gotta find that. Hold on. I'm on reef to reef, so let's see if my calcium is higher on black, so I thought that was a calcium. That's not the Yeah, calcium will drop 8 to 20 ppm for each 2.8 DKH of alkalinity that gets depleted and replaced. So you're using up a massive amount of calcium and not a massive amount of alkalinity, which is kind of wild, to be honest, in my mind. Huh. So that's not the one I wanted. But let's see here. So it takes a week to get down to 7 from 9. And your calcium goes down. How far? Hold on. It's much easier on the computer. 440 to 380. To be honest with you, that's not terrible to be at like 380, but again, you're using more than you should be calcium for sure. Yeah, at least 60. Let's see what this is right here. Is there any reef to reef? I guess the other question I'd ask is what's your magnesium at? Yeah, look at to see what your magnesium at, because I think your mag could be low, and that could be causing it. I'm still looking, but so 13 to 1350, that is not bad. So your magnesium is good. Your alkalinity is staying relatively stable, but to be honest with you, your calcium isn't terrible, but it is dropping more than what you would think it should be. Um, Although you're doing your water changes once a month each tank. Is it once a month each tank? So that's why mine's. See, I'm not. That's why what's it called? That's why I use the weekly water changes, because that also helps in the addition of calcium as well, and keeping it relatively stable, because if it's too high, then it will obviously bring it down a little bit with the water change, but that's besides the point. Thanks WV for the love on the plate coral. Bi-weekly 10 gallons. So yeah, I mean, still, you gotta find this. Needs to be added, especially when coralline algae and coral start taking off. That's probably where you're at now for my tank. Are you seeing good growth in your coral, your stony coral? If you're seeing good growth, then it's probably just being eaten up by, I'd imagine. I mean, you're still only dropping 2 DKH in a week. That should only be about 20 ppm of calcium being lost. The other thing is have you seen a big growth of like spiroid worms and snails as well? The reason why I asked that is snails obviously use calcium to grow, as well as spiroid snails, and I mean, I don't think they're snails actually. I think they're worms, spiroid worms. That could be another thing as well that's kind of taken away at calcium. But your calcium number isn't super far off. It is off, but it's not super far off. I do think that the calc would definitely take care of that in the means of being able to not have to dose calcium as much. But so GSP won't use up calcium. That's a soft coral, so that has no skeleton structure on it, so it should not use up any calcium throughout its growth. If it does, it would be a very small, minute amount. But if you have any stony coral in there, I'd imagine that keeping your alkalinity pretty stable and your calcium's being eaten up, that they're probably having a good bit of growth. Oh, okay, yeah. That's really good at 4 months too. This system right here is a year and a half old. Now I do run low nutrients, and this system is a phosphates are 0.03 and my nitrates are 2. So it does not have a very heavy um, nutrient load on it. So the GSP kind of lacks a little bit on this, I would say. But this tank being a year and a half old, GSP was one of the first things. Yeah, that mine's only grown to like maybe maybe a quarter of the back wall. So that's really good in 4 months. My Holy Grail A can went from 3 heads to 11. Yeah, you're just having crazy calcium growth, I bet. So um, keep doing what you're doing. It sounds like it's working. So, and if you do want to do the kelp washer route, I'd start it on one system first, obviously, so that way it's not so hard, I guess you would say, to try and keep both systems in check while you're doing a kelp washer. But like in this system, just to give you an idea, like my A cans have grown maybe 2 heads. Um, my trumpet coral has grown a bunch. My Duncan has grown a bunch. My Blastos have grown a bunch. But my system just doesn't like. I don't know if the acans just don't like it. I don't know what it is. I really don't. I probably should spot feed them more often just because of how slow their growth is. But I just don't really have the ambition to do that, I guess you would say. But yeah, it sounds like whatever you're doing is working. So I'd keep doing that. It's so funny how how different every system can run and can be, um, and you can have crazy good growth out of like A cans, and one system can basically not be able to grow them. Like my buddy's system is, like I said, the 32 flex, and he can grow like A cans no problem, but he couldn't grow like a Setosa. A Setosa had a wicked hard time growing in his system for whatever reason. I'm not sure. Maybe it was placement. I don't know. But like he also has other higher end SPS that do no problem growing. Like it's every system's so different. It's crazy. But some acans grow faster than others. I have another colony of Superman acans that I got with about 15 heads. It's only grown like 3 or 4 in that same amount of time. Yeah, definitely it depends on each coral, 100%. Like some of them can grow much faster than others. But to even have growth on acans is that's a good thing. I dose 500 mLs calc overnight. Yeah, that's one thing I want to do in this system. Obviously, I gotta buy a better dosing pump before I ever attempt that. The ones I have it's good for like dosing like aminos and stuff. But if you're dosing something like Kalkwasser, you don't want to have like an issue with either overdosing or underdosing. So I need it to be like super accurate and be able to hold prime. So I'm not going to implement that yet, but that's something I do want to do, is to be able to have a more stable pH. Because right now it can drop from uh, I don't know. It can drop probably from like, I think right now, because like the window's open and stuff, it's probably peaks out at like 8.6 during the day, and it could easily drop down to like 8.1, 8.2 during the night, especially if I had the windows closed all the time. With the windows open, it obviously helps out a bunch. But nighttime live. What's up, Levi? Took about 3 weeks to dial it in. Yeah, I can imagine. But once it's dialed in, it's pretty. I think Kalkwasser's pretty freaking easy. Like on this system, I did when I first started with Kalkwasser. For a while, I was only at like 3 grams per gallon because mine's in my auto top off, so it's a lot different. You can't have a full max saturation. So I went with like half of it, and then after 6 months, I believe I went full saturation, which is 6 grams per gallon, and it raised the elk, over like a 3 week period, but the system quickly ate it up and has continued to do pretty good with just Kalkwasser. That's what I'm worried about is overdosing, because at night is when I get my swing from 8.3 to 8.1. Yeah, but if you can figure out your evaporation on your system and have it, dialed back, even not even like your full evaporation from the day, just do like, I don't know, 200 mLs less than what your evap is a day. You're gonna see a more stable pH, especially if you do it at night. Never drops below like, yeah, 8.25. That's good. Um, this system is no dose or anything like that. I do have a dosing pump in the back. However, I'm not going to use it because of what I just said. So I've always run it in my auto top off. Even back on my older reef systems, I just ran Kalkwasser in my auto top off, and I've never really had like an issue. Um, it's just if you run a full saturation Kalkwasser like right off the bat, you're gonna probably spike your alkalinity up. But as long as you don't get worried by the number, like this system had a 13 DKH, so I mean, it's you can have a high alkalinity. It just can't jump that quickly in like a short period of time. I bought a Sun HW3000 and it's in Chinese. What is that? What's a Sun HW3000? I gotta look it up. A canister filter? So you bought a canister filter and it's in Chinese. Huh. Yeah, Lee, it's been a while since you've seen the reef. It's been a while. I haven't seen yours in a while either. Used to run it in ATO, an old tank, but got tired of burning out ATO pumps. Yeah, I can see that. This system has a gravity ATO, and it's on a float switch, so I just clean the float switch with citric acid every probably 3 weeks. That's usually around the time I got to refill the reservoir, and it's been good so far. I haven't really had any issues. As long as I just stick to clean it. The cleaning it is super easy. You just put it in there, let it sit for 30, 40 minutes. You come back, you brush it off and rinse it, and then put it back on. So is there a problem with it being in Chinese, or are you just saying it's Chinese? Because if that's the case, I'm pretty sure that the light and the 2 Haiger wave makers are definitely Chinese, I'd imagine. Oh, that's probably why. Probably the settings, I mean, maybe are in Chinese. Yeah, I can imagine that's probably not easy to understand. But luckily, Steven's in the chat. He can probably tell you how to do it because he has one. He's very knowledgeable so far. Just so you guys know, I'm going to cut the live short here in probably like 5 minutes just because the light's about to go out. I think it probably is at 5% blues. Let me double check. 18% blues, so it's almost out. When the light goes out, I will cut the stream. It's actually probably closer to 10 minutes. But yeah, if you can get some help from Steven, he can probably help you out on that. I don't know anything about them myself, those canister filters, so I can't help you. But I never even knew canister filters had touchscreens, so it's news to me. I just shared your link in an aquatics Discord and you might be going. I'm not sure what that means, but thanks for sharing the link. Oh, never mind. I get what you're saying. Sorry. And you might be going. I think me and I might be jumping off. I'm definitely going to be jumping off just because the tank's going to go black. As soon as it goes black, obviously there's nothing else to watch unless you guys want to look at it when it's in total darkness. But personally, I love looking at it when it has no light. That's one of my favorite things to look at. But oh, so that's pretty cool. It's got a built-in UV. That's pretty neat. But yeah, I could probably do that after the lights go out. I can put the, what's it called on, the overhead light. I've never done that before. That's pretty cool. You can adjust the speed, you can have a UV light in it and a canister filter. I'll have to look into that maybe for simplifying. They must have other sizes as well. They have a 5,000. What is the 5,000 is obviously bigger, I imagine. I bet you I could, to be honest with you. Now I think about it. I'm thinking in my head, talking out loud, obviously, but on the 80 gallon, I'm thinking I could probably put that on that system and have that also run through my algae reactor as well, because that algae reactor will definitely be going on the 80 to help with nutrients. Always thinking. Now, might be looking at a, what's it called? A Sun 5000. Actually, I think the 5000 is maybe different. No, it's got a UV as well. Huh. Oh, yeah. It's up to 300 gallon. I'd be able to do it, no problem. Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, the coral is super bright right now, obviously, because it's like just blues. So they're really fluorescing, but that's awesome. I'm gonna have to look into them now. I've never even heard of them. That's that's awesome. I'll definitely look into them now. Even a used one is not bad at all. Used one on eBay is a 304B, which I'm guessing it's an older version with a UV light, 525 gallons, and it's only $50. That kind of blows me away a little bit, to be honest. It's actually both. I got forest fire and bubblegum in here. So the one that's on the rockwork, let me see if I can't get this to turn before the light goes out. The one that's on the rockwork is forest fire. The big one on the frag rack is bubblegum digi, and I have probably 4 frags of forest fire and 2 frags of bubblegum digi in there as well. So if anyone is local to Maine and wants some forest fire or bubblegum digi as a frag, please let me know. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look definitely for the next system. I think I might definitely use that, just because I don't want to have to build a sump again. That was one of my biggest worries, but maybe I don't know. It's still up in the air what I'm going to do with the 80, so I can never decide. Yeah, no, that's a frag rack. It's like I said, it's filled at the moment. It's not a very big one because again the system is small, but it has one red Monty on the back right corner behind the zoanthids on the right, and then the rest are forest fire and bubblegum digi. That is the mother colony of the bubblegum digi, and I didn't have any place to put it in the reef, so I put it on the frag rack, and I just chop off frags off of it. Yeah, my 80 gallon was free as well, so I love free. That's my thing. Free and cheap. If I can keep it free and cheap, I'm happy. All right, so if the tank light goes out, I will be turning the overhead light on in the room so that you're able to see basically the reef tank at night. I do have to go get my kids to bed, but you guys are all obviously welcome to continue chatting. I will be back in probably less than 10 minutes. Um, maybe 20. But either way, I'm going to leave it running for you guys. Screw it. Why not? Let's see. Yeah, 2%. She's almost ready to go. It's funny to see everything kind of slowly start to close up. You can kind of see it on the Sunset Monty over here. The trumpet has shrunk quite a bit. You can't see it at the moment, but the Duncan's all sunken in as well. This system runs a 50-watt Night Crew Hyper Reef right off of Amazon. That's actually not terrible. Now that I look at it, it's a little boring, but got a big glare on it. Let's see if we can't do that. It's a little better. You won't be able to see any fish, and it's probably going to be pretty boring. And my clowns have gone up in the left-hand corner where they sleep. But I'll be right back. It's less time than I thought. I didn't really want any crazy bedtime stories, so just wanted a quick book. Luckily, very easy, kids. Go to bed. Oh, what did I miss here? You guys been chatting it up this whole time. I have the 150 on my flex. It's overkill, but I wanted the coverage. Now you can see that. Noisy Aquatics has a Discord. Guys, we talk about fish all day. Got two Hydra 64s, one Hydra 32, and Aqua Illumination LED bars on my 150. Here in Australia, Devil Angel Fish looking for 100. Dang! Two aquatic aquarium speeds and a couple of reef brights. Yeah, swim out to the reef. I know a lot of people in Australia also use, what's it called? The water for doing their water changes, so. Every time I watch Parker's Reef do a coral fish unboxing in the stores, I want to. Yeah, Steven Reef too. That's why I stay in Maine. No snakes, no scorpions. I mean, we have snakes, but not like poisonous ones. We don't really have any crazy dangers up here, I guess. I think everybody's probably wanted to go to Australia, especially if you're in the reefing hobby at all. Mexican turbo snail out front in center. Jesus, that's heavy. Yeah, see, like, that's crazy. That's such a good idea, really, to be able to take right from the ocean to be able to do your tank, because what's better than the ocean water that's already thriving a reef? So that's pretty cool. Obviously, conditions vary, but I imagine I've seen a few Australian tanks that do that. I wish we could do it here in Maine, but I don't think that's going to be such a good idea. I live 2 hours from the coast in Maine, and our water is probably not ideal for reef tanks. I've never heard of anybody ordering salt water in a truck, but we can definitely go to a local fish store and get salt water. But I don't know as if they have a truckload on hand. A lot of them maybe have like 1,000-gallon vat, maybe, but I've never heard of the saltwater truck. That would be kind of cool, though. but at the same time, probably would be quite expensive, I imagine, to do that. So probably not that cool. I do like the convenience of having an RODI system at home. That is one of the biggest things when it comes to a reef tank. I think is definitely a RODI, so you can make your water at home. Unless you live in Australia and you can pump it locally, but RODI is pretty nice. Getting it set up is a pain, but at the same time, it's like the anticipation, you know, like you want it to be, like you have envisions of what you think the tank is going to look like, and then like seeing those visions play out in ways is really cool. I like the building of tanks. I really do. I like the setup of them. So, but at the same time, I also enjoy being able to watch them and not have to, I guess, worry too much, I would say. But not that I really worry with this system, but or it doesn't go to play. Yeah. I guess in this one, this system, when I first set it up, I kind of did like a 2-island rock structures, and the flow was like absolutely dead in between the two rock structures. Like I could never get it really right with where I wanted my power heads. So I went to basically like just one rock structure in there. It was pretty crowded as it was anyway. And I took one rock, well, I took the rock island out and then took a rock off the back, and that's basically where the jelly bean chalice sits now. But so that was one thing that didn't go as planned. Obviously, that ran for like a month like that, I think, and I was like, I just can't do that. I got to change it up. So, and then I had a massive sea lettuce outbreak in this tank. Even with 100% blues on, it had no whites, and the sea lettuce grew like absolutely wildfire. Every rock was covered in probably a ½ inch of sea lettuce. And of course, I weren't documenting the reef at the time, so the my video only goes back to basically when the tank really started stabilizing and taking off. That was one of my first videos I posted of it on my YouTube channel. But before that, I had like when I say it was huge, it was a huge outbreak of sea lettuce. Yeah, finding balance does take time, especially if you start with dead rock and you have no nitrifying bacteria, so you don't have like a seeded rock from another reef tank or whatever, if you're basically just starting with like a virgin tank where it's pretty much everything was dead, then most definitely it definitely takes time for it to level out. And that's what I did in this system. The only thing that was live was I did live sand in the bottom, and after a while, it, like I said, I think it was probably not quite 6 months. It was probably only 3.5, maybe 4 months that it lasted. Um, but that was due from what I added to the system. I added a tuxedo urchin, which does a huge number on pretty much all types of algae, besides bubble algae. Um, and I added a Mexican turbo snail, which does a pretty good job on it, and had my algae reactor running opposite photo period, so it was on 12 hours a night. So that basically outpaced the sea lettuce as well for taking care of nutrients. Been doing this for a year and a half, and I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. There's so much I don't know. 100%. I've been doing this for over 15 years. I started when I was still in high school. My first reef tank was just a 10-gallon marine land, and back then you couldn't, like, we didn't have all the cool stuff that you have now, like, we did have live rock though, which was nice. You could go to the local fish store, and they literally had like tubs filled with live rock, and well seeded live rock. Some of it was probably from the ocean, because you could get live rock then. Some of it was from tank breakdowns and stuff, but starting a tank off with live rock, it helps so much when it comes to getting a bacteria set up in the system, a nitrifying bacteria. But yeah, I had like crappy lights and crappy wave makers and stuff back then, but I've been doing it a while, and you still learn something new all the time when it comes to reefing. It would be, I've researched so much stuff, I've learned so much stuff, and still there's stuff I had no idea about. Some of them, like this past year's like microbiome, like people are like testing for allergens and stuff in their, it's crazy what you can look up and look into and really figure out, like, if your tank, what's your reasoning for a fish dying, or possible reasoning for a fish dying. For me, I try to keep it as simple as possible. I'm not going to try and get into any of that. See, I didn't know you could do ICP testing through Amazon. Like, I had no idea. And that's what I was gonna get. Like, this tank has never had an ICP test. I mostly don't want to do it because I don't want to start chasing a number. Not that I would, anyways. But that's pretty great. Like, I had no idea Amazon could do ICPs, but. Yeah, I can imagine, especially like when you're first setting up a tank, maybe if you haven't done it before, with like a certain fish or a certain coral, like you do so much research to just make sure that you don't kill it. I mean, things happen, obviously, and not everything is going to be perfect, but you try your best, obviously. Oh yeah, they sell test kits. Yeah, yeah. So you can like just buy them off Amazon. Yeah, that's actually nice because where is it? Let me see. I gotta look it up now. Oh yeah, right there. Seawater and RODI water. They got a bunch of them, it looks like. They even have a 6-pack one. Oh, that's bulk reef supply. Never mind. That's not Amazon, but I'm sure Amazon probably has one of those too. But that's kind of cool. That's the only thing you can do, Steven. You can only be in a range because when you start chasing a number is when things can go south really quickly. Those clowns are super weird, and this is a high flow system, so he's basically riding the current up top for whatever reason. I'm not sure, because he usually sleeps on that coral that's below him underneath it, because that's like a dead zone in the flow. But for some reason he has sat up at the top right now. Oh, there he goes. But yeah, I don't have names for my fish. I don't name any of the fish. But that is my Maine Blizzard clown. So that was a bred fish that was bred here at Maine way back in the day, like early 2000s, I think. And it was one of the first bred clowns I seen, and I have wanted one forever, but they were super expensive, so I bought one of those. And the male clown is a Midnight Lightning. So if they ever breed and I decide to get like a breeding tank for them, I am interested to see what they would make for a fish. Yeah, I've seen pretty much every designer clown. Um, our websites here show pretty much all of them. I've had a few myself. I had a lightning maroon pair back in my 40-gallon I had. Had a couple of variation blacks, kind of like this one that's in this tank, but like the snowflakes and the platinums, like that all white, and then you got like the Trupiculas and I don't even know what the name is. Honestly, some of the names are pretty wild, but now they have like fancy fin ones, and it's so crazy. Like they have so many clownfish. I mean, they're all mutations of the original, but still, it's pretty cool. I think the first time I seen a pair of those Maine Blizzards was at a local fish store, which is like 40 minutes away from me at the time. Super unique because of the zoning laws there. You needed to have a storefront of like that sold merchandise to be able to have a fish store as well. For some whatever reason, I'm not sure what the laws were, but it was a literal gas station that didn't sell gas, so it was just like a convenience store, but it still had the gas pumps out front, and it had a fish store section in the back. And that was the first time I seen a pair of those clowns, and they were $450 for a pair, and they weren't mated. I was like, whew, I don't know about that. At the time, if I had known, obviously they're gonna figure out, who's gonna be the mate, but at the time, $450, that was pricey for a pair. Really pricey. Especially when I was in high school and couldn't afford all that, so. But now they're, I don't know, I can't say the exact prices, but I don't think I paid that much. I gotta look now. where is it? Cultivated Reef is where I bought those from, I believe. Excuse me. Let's take a look. Captive bred fish, clownfish. Yeah, like they have so many. If you could, I might just show the screen real quick. Yeah, Maine Blizzard, $39 is what I paid for that Maine Blizzard. Where's the Midnight Lightning? And I'll be able to tell you that the Midnight Lightning was more than the Maine Blizzard, I believe. They gotta be on the first page. Yeah, Midnight Lightning is $75. So 75 and 39. Oh, 100%. The only reason I bought them is because it was something I always wanted. I have a chromis in here, just a blue-green chromis. I don't, of course this system isn't very big, but I try to keep it cheap. I don't want to spend like all these people that buy like meso tangs and stuff. Like, I don't know how these people dump that kind of money into the reefing hobby when like the chances of them surviving is pretty slim, and I don't know. It's just, that's a lot. But yeah, Cultivated Reef has some really good deals on fish. They sometimes have sales. Like they have a sale right now on a longfin snowstorm, which is like one of their newest breeds, I guess you would say. It's original $250 and it's $50 off. But I mean, I'm not buying that at all. I'd even honestly go with a regular OG pair of clowns. So honestly, I can't vouch for Higer more than these two pumps. They have had zero issues, zero issue with the controller, plug-in, all that. No issues whatsoever. I clean them in citric acid maybe every 3 months. Even the cross flow gets the same time period, and they haven't stopped working. They've been great. Yeah, that's 100% what I feel as well. Like, why spend? What you're basically throwing away money because nobody's going to do anything for you, especially the supplier. It's crazy to me that people can spend that kind of money on, fish that have a low chance of survivability in an aquarium. I don't think you can pair these together. They have different controllers. So the crossflow, it just has 4 settings, and it stays on that setting all day long. Sorry, 5 settings, not 4 settings. So you have like a short pulse, you have a wave pulse, you have a constant, you have a random, and then you have a really short pulse. In the Higer Mini Wave Maker, you have a much more customizable, like you can set up like the times of the day and what you may want it to be doing. So you can change up the variation of the flow with that one a lot more than, say, the cross flow. But either way, they're super great pumps. They don't have connectability to like Bluetooth or anything or Wi-Fi, so you can't. I can't imagine you could put them on like a controller. But like I said, the controller that they have is they're pretty basic, but they work. Haven't had any problems with them yet, and for the price point, Like you can't really compete with them on the price point. I don't think. J-Bow and Higer, they're doing some pretty good things with the size package they are. My buddy has the one stepped up on his 32 flex, and both of them can move water. He's basically got the same thing on the 32 flex. He has the circular power head that's bigger, just bigger than the mini on my back, and he has the next step up cross flow, which I think is like 18 watts. But yeah, after I bought these, like, I told myself I'm never not gonna like give it a go, because these pumps work great. Like, they really do. I am after budget friendly upgrades on the system that work, and that do their job without having to pay astronomical amount of money to pay for the name brand, basically. Because in the end, all you're doing is doing a setting, and if you can not have to worry about like going crazy into the settings, these pumps are nuts for the price. But I'm pretty sure, like, on all, I think J-Bow and Higer are the same manufacturer. I think maybe J-Bow just makes them so they have connectivity. I'm not sure, but they literally look identical. Like, if you look at the pumps, J-Bow makes a mini. They also make a little cross flow, and they're identical. Yeah, I'll have to look into that, actually, now that you say that. Because maybe on my 80, that's what I'll go to one of those, to those instead. But I like the cheap and affordable option over the more expensive, and does the same thing, but for 2 or 3 times the price. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying like mostly like Ecotech products. It's just like the price you pay for that. In the end, it's all you're doing is moving water. That's all you really need to do in these systems. People get like over customizable things for these systems when you could save that money and buy like a high, and with saving that money you could buy coral or fish or whatever for your system. But like an MP10 can only be dialed back as far as these can, but they say that they can be dialed back all the way to like 10% or something, or even 1%, but that's really a lie. They only go down to like 30% to be able to keep that pump still moving. And you're spending $500 for a pump that all you're doing is really all you need it to do is move water and then change up a schedule. But that mini wave maker right there is $50. So that's what I'm getting at. I know Fluval's been around forever, and not everything they make is top brand or best brand, but like Ecotech's been around forever too, and their price point has always been super high. And in reality, all you're doing is moving water. That's all you need it to do. So why spend a buttload of money when you can buy something that does the same thing and is pretty programmable. That's my mindset. Again, I like to keep these systems simple, so all I have is a monitor on here. I don't have like a full-blown controller or anything. So all I do is I monitor my temperature and my pH just to make sure that I am not overdosing and my pH is like going through the roof, that would say that to me that like my auto top off got stuck on, and my temperature to make sure that my temperature is always constant, because if I have the windows open in the house, which I do right now, I'm gonna have to shut them for tonight because it's 58 degrees outside and it will quickly drop the temperature inside this room. But I just like to keep it simple, and if I can simplify everything in the system as much as I can in the system and not really have to mess with anything, it keeps the system very stable. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, they market their controllability, I guess, as their biggest thing, and their low profile in the system with the drive on the outside, but at the same time, you still have this big magnetic drive on the backside. I get it, but at the same time, like, paying those price points are just crazy to me. Like, even lights, an XR15 for this light Radeon would be $600, I think. Let me see. What's a Gen 6 XR15 Pro? We'll go with Pro. Yeah, it's $530. And that does it come with a stand? I don't even think that comes with mounting hardware. Am I wrong? I might be wrong, but I don't know if it does. I think, no, you gotta buy the mounting hardware extra. So like, this light right here, $150 with a controller, comes with a mount. Grows coral, no problem. That's a much better investment to me than spending $530 on a light that's gonna do the exact same thing. Yeah, exactly. It's the on pretty much all reefing when it comes to, like, the Ecotech and stuff, like the big name brands, is insane pricing. Like, doesn't need to be that high. I've seen the same XR30 on Temu. You can find them on Temu, an XR30 at half the price. Like, why are you not in that price range? It doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, I mean, I've never, knock on wood, I mean, like, all my cheap stuff works. I have not, it works. So, like, why is it not more talked about, especially in this hobby where everybody thinks it's so expensive, and it is. I'm not saying it isn't. Like, you're talking about buying coral and fish, and the fish aren't cheap and the coral aren't cheap, but, like, that should be way more talked about how well some of these cheap products, and I shouldn't even say cheap, I should say inexpensive products work, and how well they work. That's the other thing. Like, years back, you couldn't put a light that would have the customizability and the price point that this is, and the ability to grow coral all in the same thing for $150. Like, you were talking about a T5 fixture that was probably 300, and it had no customability, and the only way you could really run it was with like a timer, unless you bought like an upgraded model that had all that stuff built into it, like a controller. But yeah, see, for me, I don't. That doesn't bother me about the night crew. Personally, I know for other people it does. Being able to go in and change the individual colors, but to me, you would be able to do that with like a simple software change on the controller. I'd imagine, because the LEDs are already controllable. It just has it set to two channels. They consider one channel the whites, the reds, and the greens, and they consider the other channel the violets and the blues. So I think that's probably just a quick software change. That could be like super easy for them to change. But I do understand that. I personally just go with, I think my tank peaks at like 20% whites for like 4 hours during the day, and then it's rest of the day it's 100% blues on this system. So again, for me it doesn't bother me, but I do understand that why, like, it's really just probably a software issue. Like, you could change it so easily. See, for me, I've never had that customized, like, custom ability. Even when on my 40 that I had a Kessel when they first came out, like when they first started making reef lights. I bought a Kessel back then, you know, trying to buy the hype, and all you could do was adjust your blue spectrum and your white spectrum. Light was awesome, but for the price point, it was the same thing. Like, you're paying, I think back then it was like almost $500 for the Kessel 360 Tuna Blue. Came with no mount, and you also had to pay, I think, like another $50 or $60 for the controller, which is the exact same controller that this Night Crew uses. Identical controller. Yeah, just like I said, yeah, it's identical. It's literally the exact same one that Kessel had way back when they first came out. They first started making like reef lights. And Kessels are really nice lights. Like, I'm not saying it's not a nice light. The thing grew coral, it did its job, all that. But if you can buy a light that does the same thing, you know, it grows coral. It might not have the crazy Kessel shimmer, but this still has a nice shimmer to it. Why not, you know? Like I said, time and time again in this live, my favorite thing is finding the inexpensive upgrades to, like, the reefs that will do the same thing for a fraction of the price. That way I can buy, you know, like 4 frags at a frag swap, or at the reefs, the local fish store when I go, if I have the room when I'm first setting up a tank. Let's see if this one is a little bit different on it. A little different. A nighttime reef is pretty cool. I like watching it. They're just starting to come out right now, but I'll be off the live anyways before they really come out. But the snails. I have a massive population of snails in here. Very small, very tiny, but they've been here for ever. And I got 5 or 6 different types of snails in here, so I'm not sure which ones they are, but there's a lot. You'll see little white dots all over the glass. There's a bunch over here on the right now. But one of my favorite times to look at the reef tank is definitely at night. The chair is making some noise. But I'm probably you check the tank each day or weekly. Are you talking about testing or just visual inspections? If you're talking about visual inspections, it's definitely daily. I observe the tank. I really don't chase any numbers or anything like that. But testing wise, I do not test nearly as often as I should. You should test minimum bi-weekly. I think the last test I did was 3 months ago. I just did it yesterday, or 2 days ago, sorry. And really, I watch the corals, and if I see anything like that's out of whack, I'll test. But if not, I just let the tank kind of do its own thing. So. It's a super, I try to keep it as simple as possible, but I do highly recommend checking it like at minimum bi-weekly. And if you're adding anything to your reef, like dosing or anything, you should be testing daily to see how things are adjusting. But if you're just like growing out and making and seeing good growth in your reef, and you know that your alkalinity and calcium is being consumed at a relatively stable rate, and that you can dial in your dosing, you can kind of let these things run for a little bit sometimes, and they'll just be just fine. Again, you just got to watch the coral, watch the fish. Visual observations, I think, go a long way when it comes to keeping an eye on your reef system. But I am probably going to jump off. I have to list some things on eBay, and if you guys like the lives, definitely subscribe so that you guys can. I try to go live more often than make videos about the reef. The videos look nicer because you can see better detail when you're shooting in like 1440, but lives are much nicer. You can answer a lot of questions and stuff. So, but hopefully you guys have a good night. Thanks for coming in, and I'll try and catch you guys in the next one if you guys pop in, and take her easy.